This podcast is brought to you by sarahraven.com, which is home to everything you need for a truly beautiful and productive garden. You'll also find great and essential gardening kit and stylish, lovely things to have in your house to bring the outside indoors, all inspired by the garden and the house being tied together. There's also plenty of garden inspiration, how-to videos and specialist growing guides. So head over to sarahraven.com today to discover even more. Welcome to Grow, Cook, Eat, Arrange, the podcast of me, Sarah Raven, and my friend and colleague, Arthur Parkinson. Hello, Arthur. How are you doing?
Hello, Sarah. I'm fine, thank you.
Good. Today, I actually thought we'd do a bit of a recap of what Arthur's up to, because it's interesting and it's nice to chat about things that are interesting. So he's on the move quite a lot, and so it's really difficult to work out how to put down roots and how to garden. And one way that obviously he's done it is to have everything in pots, which we'll talk about what's been really good for him this year in his pots. But also he's actually rented a little bit of land, almost like an allotment, but it's not in allotments. So Arthur, will you tell us a little bit about, we'll come on to the pots at home in a bit, but will you just tell me what led you to rent this little bit of land?
Well, I've ended up living in the part of the world that I never thought I'd live in, which is Gloucestershire, GL7. And I first came here working for Emma Bridgewater, actually, which is getting on in time. But I never really, my heart didn't really leap out my chest here. Mainly because coming from Nottingham, where my family is, around the corner from one another, you get very used to that, you get very secure knowing that. And it is also an incredibly social part of the world. I mean, it's been turned into this kind of like what most people would aspire England to look like and what people think England is. But it's a very money-rich part of the world as well, which is beautiful. And I have actually really grown to love it, but only through doing what I love to do, which is grow things and know farms. I've got to know people who have got farms in the area, not really going to the lovely Michelin star pubs and things like that.
Yeah.
Or doing what most people do in this part of the world, which has been, kind of to my fault in a way, because the normal stuff that I'm good at's thrive, the garden and the poultry and everything else, and the human side has kind of died like a houseplant that's neglected. So, to not sugarcoat it, the things that I've always done, I've carried on doing, and the things I've tried to do as an adult, I've tried to do, and they've not really flourished. But that's just the way it is. And I'm kind of in a situation where I'm really glad to have this land. And it's like before we started recording this morning, I was on my bike at 7, straight to check the land and to check the hens. And that is what makes me get up in the morning and makes me carry on, knowing I've got all this life that I've got to keep A, bankrolling, and A, nurturing, because if you don't nurture it, it all goes wrong very, very quickly.
Yeah.
And I'm always looking at prices of land, particularly back in Nottingham. But you know what? It is incredible. There is nothing to buy. There's nothing to rent, unless maybe you want to have a pony on a shared stable yard, which I don't. And all the little pockets of land that I used to know as a child have all been built on. Even the little like corners of estates that, just seem to be like barren wasteland, they've all gone. So it's really difficult, I think, for anybody to find land unless you want an allotment. And allotments are great, I think, if you just want to grow veg. But, I want to have chickens and breed chickens. So I've got cockerels crowing and a lot of allotment plots don't let you have any chickens at all. So luckily, thanks to you, I knew the owners. It's a lovely organic farm. And so last year I approached them. I said, have you got any land that I could rent off you? And they said, yeah, of course, because they knew me and liked me, and that was lovely. And so they'd got an area of land that was planted as kind of like, not set aside and not for pheasants, but it had a few trees on and it was just scrubland. And so I'm renting a plot off that from them that I've fenced. And at first it looked like Jurassic Park, because in order to keep my hens safe, I really had to go to town with the fencing. And so I have got deer fencing and then around that electric fencing to keep them safe. Yeah, foxes and badgers, yeah.
What size is it, Arthur?
I think it's a quarter of an acre, and that's just enough for me for the amount of hens I want to keep.
Yeah. So will you talk us through what's there at the moment? So the poultry and then also the plants.
So the hens that I'm breeding are a breed called Buff Cochins, and I've been hatching them all year. And the original birds came from Chatsworth Farmyard because they're a rare breed, and so they're the original ones that Deborah Devonshire introduced to Chatsworth, and they're a really good line of this breed that I almost describe to people like a golden retriever of chickens. And at the moment, the chicks this year that I've hatched are literally like, they're at this really wumpy pumpy plump stage where they've got the first proper set of feathers. They look absolutely immaculate, and they haven't got their combs and wattles, so they've got very little pale faces and just the colour of a golden retriever, and they're very sweet. You just want to pick them up and cuddle them, really. And what I love about them is they're incredibly docile. They literally don't peck each other, so there's no bullying. They don't lay tons of eggs, which is the main downside. And to be honest, they are a bit chocolate teapots because they've got huge feathered trousers, and that means that in the winter it was a real stressful time because the land just became like a swamp. What they call the ground here is something called Cotswold brash, which is clay, and then underneath the clay is literally just stone. So the water is held when there's a lot of water on the surface of the ground, and then as soon as it stops raining, it becomes like a desert. So quite hard extremes of soil, and we've just had the wettest winter, so it was a lot of very long wet days worrying about them, but we've managed to get through it. And the reason we got through it was because I knew that, so I had my hen houses built to almost all be on stilts, so it almost looks like a lovely Thailand like village of hen houses all on these stilts about a foot off the ground. And that's great because it makes cleaning out really easy. There's no bending down. And it also means I don't get any rat issues because literally everything is off the floor. There's nowhere for them to hide. And I've been mowing the grass weekly. I've treated myself to a battery lawnmower, which actually has been amazing. I absolutely love it. There's no horribleness with petrol or having to pull that thing that nearly takes your arm out its socket to start it up. It's just 2 big batteries. They go on charge. And I can then mow for about 4 hours and then they go back on charge.
Gosh, that's a great tip.
Yeah. Because I think with chickens aren't grazers, but they do like to peck grass, but it has to be short for them to peck, and that keeps them healthy and makes their eggs tasty.
Yeah, it's what gives the eggs all the antioxidants, isn't it? The fact that they're such grazers. Oh, that sounds so nice. And so no layers, really. I mean, mainly and then what's the destination for these to spread them around the country because they're a rare breed?
Yeah, so literally all year I've been backwards and forwards to Chatsworth with eggs that mine are laying, just to try and spread the gene pool out. And I've been sending them to, some have gone to a lovely farm in Wales, and I think some have even gone to Scotland, just because with avian influenza, we just don't know how bad it's going to be from one year to the next. So it's really important to spread the gene pools of the rare breeds around so that they're in as many people's hands as possible, just in case there's an outbreak and the result is government enforced culling.
Yeah.
Because there's no point just holding on and hoarding living things. If they're not shared, they can easily go extinct even though they're domestic.
It's like a living gene pool, like
totally.
You have to do with tulips in the same way you have to grow them out every few years. and also I know you've been doing lots of drawings. So will you tell us about both the ceramics and your next book?
Yeah, so all winter long drawing chickens to the point where I got a bad neck actually. Had like 2 months of my neck being one side of my shoulders because my chickens are so small. I was hunched over every night drawing them, quite stressed because the deadline was getting closer and closer. And I've drawn for my next chicken book a lot of chickens, probably about 200 drawings at least. And they're all the size of a large stamp, which sounds like, it must mean you do them in a minute. I don't, because they're so precise and tiny and ridiculous, really. And yeah, it's really amazing, to be honest.
What's that book called?
Oh, the book that's out next year, it's going to be called The Hen Party.
And when's it out?
September next year, I think, 2025, all being well.
And so it's different to Chicken Boy because it's about individual breeds.
Yeah, it's just like a celebration of all the individual breeds. And
Great.
Hopefully by doing drawings, it'll be quirky. Because there's lots of books that you can see whenever you go to like a big garden centre or Waterstones, aren't there? Books about cats, books about dogs, even rabbits and guinea pigs. And I just felt that chickens really needed to be celebrated through art, really. So that's the next book. And it's amazing. I mean, due to Instagram, and really it is due to Instagram, I've had my drawings in Fortnum's this spring. I had to take live chickens into London. That was quite fun.
Yeah.
A cockerel in a basket that wouldn't shut up. I nearly got chucked off the train going back from London. Um,
Did you? But so tell me what you're doing with Fortnum's then.
So we did a range of pottery all made in Stoke-on-Trent, which I liked. But what I loved was this wonderful bag for life that they did, this tote bag for life, with this huge silver lace Wyandotte, black and white, and a lovely striking wattle and comb that was bright red. So very proud of that with a blue strap. I mean, quite surreal because, I knew about Fortnum and Mason. I think I'd been in it once when I lived in London. I never had enough money to even buy anything from there. So to go there and have like Arthur Parkinson pottery is quite surreal.
Fantastic.
So hopefully that'll continue because I think it's just lovely. I mean, it's one of the reasons why I started working for the Bridgewaters because I loved their ceramics, and now to have my drawings on a few things, it's really nice.
Really great evolution. And then what about the flowers? Because I know as a mutual dahlia fanatic, you couldn't have a bit of lamb without growing some dahlias. So talk us exactly through on this wet ground how you've managed to evolve to have a dahlia patch.
I can't believe it. I mean, it started out where in the winter cleaning out the chickens, it was just like, I'm just going to make a space in this land and it's just going to have to be like a farmyard manure heap.
Yeah.
So down went months worth of chicken manure and straw all mixed in. And then the thing is, when you're renting land, you have to have deliveries of feed and that comes in cardboard boxes. So I had cardboard to get rid of. So I ended up creating this like island in the middle of the hen paddock, really, of the manure and the cardboard. And of course it got to April and I thought, that's going to have to become a flower bed. But I knew I needed more than just chicken manure and cardboard because the ground underneath was so awful.
Yes.
So I ordered in 4 tons of compost, 2 ton organic farmyard manure and 2 ton Melcourt multi-purpose compost. And that all arrived in ton bags. Very stressful to get it close to the land because there's no real road near the land. Gosh. So involving ringing the building merchant and very stressful. They nearly delivered it to the house because, that awful thing when you realise you put the wrong postcode in.
Yes.
So it got there eventually. And then wheelbarrows later, it was all spread out. And then it was fenced off, obviously, from the hens because I couldn't have them just treating it like a big dust bath. And then I just started ordering dahlia tubers quite slapdash and they all started arriving. And then it got to the week before Chelsea and I'd got all these boxes of tubers, poor things in the shed, cooking because it was getting hot. I just thought, you're going to have to just plant them direct and just see what happens. So I did. Literally just scooped them into the top of the soil. Didn't really plant them, to be honest. And then returned from Chelsea after a full week in London doing that. And to my amazement, they were sprouting, like literally just going for it.
Fantastic.
And now this patch of land, you can't see it because it's literally just a dahlia forest. I mean, I am amazed. I don't know if it's due to being on an organic farm that means the slug population isn't there. But when I walk through the wildflower meadows where they've mown paths at night, there's loads of black slugs.
Gosh.
Tons. And I don't encourage the hens to eat slugs because it's actually bad if they do. So I don't encourage them to eat. But anyway, they've not been ruined by slugs and snails. They've just got on with it. I've not even pinched them out, to be honest. All I did do was your advice of spacing them out. I think, is it 15 inches apart?
Or even more, but yeah.
Which to me, actually, I think is I think they need more space, to be honest. But anyway, it's amazing. And all through the winter, I was cutting down hazel. So I've used every stick of hazel that I've coppiced to stake them, which looks wonderful. But picking-wise, they need to get above the hazel now because as I'm picking, I'm damaging some of the flowers. So it looked wonderful when I staked them. It looked like something out of a fairy tale. But now when I'm wanting to pick quickly, I'm cursing myself because it's a bit delicate getting them through the stems of the hazel into the bucket. So I should have listened to you and just used my Hessian fishing net, whatever it is we sell.
Well. And what's the destination? Are you selling them in farm shops and things? What are you using them for?
Well, I've got a few events in September and things going on. But so far, I've just been taking them to friends, taking them on the train to Nottingham. I had my friend George yesterday. He came and picked loads.
Brilliant.
And I'm ruthless because, you've always taught me you've got to pick. So, you just pick them all. And then before you know it, they're coming back. I just hope they don't conk out before September. I hope I don't go up there one day and find they've all started to get mildew. That's my only concern. But I have started feeding them comfrey feed because I'm able to ferment that on the land because there's no one concerned about smell. So I've got a big, old, huge black cattle bucket that I'm chopping the comfrey up in and that's fermenting and absolutely stinks, but they seem to be enjoying that.
Oh, good. And just coming back to one thing you mentioned, you don't like, or you discourage your hens from eating slugs. Why is that? I didn't know. Ducks, I always thought were fine eating slugs, but a chicken's not.
Ducks are absolutely fine. They've got very different intestinal acid than chickens, whereas chickens, if you start deliberately chucking, saucepans of slugs you've collected overnight into your chicken run, you'll look at the droppings one day and you'll find they're actually bubbling with internal worms, just like what dogs and cats get. And that's really bad for hens' guts, and it really takes the toll on them. So you actually have to worm chickens once a year, in my case, because they've got lots of space for internal parasites. But if you've got hens in a small area, you should probably do it twice a year just to stop that parasitic burden in their guts from getting too bad.
Wow, do you know, I didn't know that, Arthur. I'm going to go and order some.
Yours should be all right because you've got a big hen run.
Okay.
But I learned
I've never done it. I've never, ever
Well, some people don't. And to be honest, as long as they've got enough space, and it's normally a problem when you live somewhere where there's lots of pheasants as well, because they transmit it to the hens. But yeah, it's just something to be in mind of if you notice your hens' droppings are literally... I mean, I learnt the hard way because I had an aunt when I was little and she had an allotment and she was a bit of a hippie and she started dropping us off slugs and snails in little Tupperware boxes. And of course the hens go mad.
Yeah.
But within a month, my mum went, oh dear, the hens' droppings, what's going on here? It's quite awful, like science fiction. But,
right. That is amazing. I just didn't know that. And so maybe you'll start doing a book on dahlias and painting dahlias.
I don't know. I think you've done the best books on that. But no, it's nice. I think it'll be nice in September to photograph it when it's really at its height of craziness. But the mistake, bizarrely, I made with varieties was I think I planted too many dark ones. And I never thought I'd say that because when I first started growing, it was all about the rich, purple and maroon. But actually, you really need a lot of orange to go with them.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. The first to flower has been your traditional favourite Rip City, and I've got tons and tons of that. And Solomon is also in full flower. And Verone's Obsidian, that came into flower really early, as did a single bishop type, which I don't think we sell. It's called Catherine something.
Oh, I don't know that.
And it's very, very tall. It's taller than Bishop's Children.
Oh,
but what I love the most actually is tartan just chucked in the middle of all these rich colours.
Isn't it great? The bicolours.
I mean, it's the most... I never thought I'd love it, but actually I really wish I'd have planted 4 rows of it because it is just the most spectacular thing to have in the bars. It literally just talks to you like a crazy parrot in a cage.
Yeah.
And I love Irish pinwheel.
Yeah, so do I. I love that.
That's beautiful, really beautiful. Reminds me a bit of Jesscott Julie, which I know we can't get anymore.
Yeah. Great. Oh, that's so nice to hear about all of that. And just because I said at the beginning, what's been your triumph in a pot at home in the flower yard? So maybe give us 1 or 2 of those. Yeah.
Well, what's been a real triumph this year are the Sparmanias, which is your classic favourite houseplant. And I've always loved them. And then we did a course somewhere years ago, and Shane O'Connolly gave me a cutting from one of his. And this cutting grew into a lovely big Sparmania. And then it got to the point where it was too big and I decided to coppice it, as you do with yours, every couple of years to invigorate them. But with all the material, I did loads of cuttings. And this must have been back in March. So it obviously was the right time to do the cuttings of it. Yeah. Because they've all taken. And now I've got all these lovely... They are just leaves, but they look so exotic and almost like little miniature palm trees. And I love them. They're all in like a little creche together in their little terracotta pots. And I feel bad because we keep giving them away to people. And it's almost like the nursery creche is getting smaller and smaller.
Oh, yeah.
I'm getting too sentimental in my old age with all this.
Well, we all like a bit of nostalgia and sentimentality. Yeah. Not too much, but some. And just to round off, I mean, I just couldn't agree more about that thing of discovering, particularly when light levels are high and hours of daylight are long, that just a walk out into the countryside or into the garden is kind of a really good way of staying grounded and sane.
It really is.
Content, and so good for anxiety and everything. And I know that the more I know myself, the more I know that that's why I do what I do. And it is the thing that kind of keeps me going, gets me out of bed in the morning. As you say, I walk down, let the hens out, pick a few flowers, take some pictures, do an Instagram, go and pick some tomatoes. And then I'm ready for the day, however challenging it might be.
Yeah, I have grown through cycling. I have grown to part of me loves this part of the world very much, just because you notice more when you're on your bike or walking rather than just getting in a car, and you notice more, and you just I love this time of year actually in the Cotswolds, because they've not actually trimmed the road verges as much as they did last year. I don't know why.
Oh,
and the cow pasture was just incredible. Like often I'll go and check the hens very late in the evening, and so I'll cycle back sometimes when it's fully dark. And when it was cow pasture time, it was really, really beautiful. And it's a very good place in the world to live if you're like me and can't drive, because it's flat. So cycling is quite a dream, to be honest.
Yeah, just like Holland. Yeah,
yeah.
Perfect. Oh, great, Arthur. Well, lovely to catch up, and thank you.
Bye.
Thanks very much for listening to Grow, Cook, Eat, Arrange with me, Sarah Raven, and Arthur Parkinson, and just having a sort of recap of what Arthur's up to. Next week, I'm joined by somebody else I work with, a friend and colleague, Tom Stimpson, and he is our head of horticulture, but he's also the most incredible gardener, of course. And I've been to visit his garden in Ely, which is just so beautiful. So Jonathan Buckley and I, the photographer I work with, and I have been to Tom and Colin's because he has this unbelievably jewel-like garden in the middle of Ely that I've called the Pint Pot Garden, because it's just brimming over and it's tiny and it's delicious and it's wonderful. See you then. You can find more information, photos and advice sheets on all the plants and recipes we talk about on this podcast by heading to the show notes or at sarahraven.com/podcast.